Chapter 1. 17-year-old Ariessy Taylor sat at the table feeling so tired the nerves in her eyes throbbed. Still, her alarm woke her on time that morning, which made a pleasant change. She rested her chin on her hand and watched the wild birds through the kitchen window from a modest mid-terraced house in Wales, a Celtic country which is part of the United Kingdom. A seagull swooped down to eat the dried fruit she left out for them the night before. How much do you understand about life? Do you ever feel alone? She thought. Her mother, Marie, stopped midway through buttering the crumpets as her eyes drifted to the front page of the morning paper. Her mouth dropped open when she read the headline. "Holy hell, do you think that was Frey's curse?" she said. Ariessy was only half listening. She was too focused on a bird washing her feathers in the pond outside. "Essie?" Marie asked again. "What do you think?" "It's on the counter, isn't it?" said Ariessy. "What's on the counter?" she said while she scanned the rest of the article. "Your purse?" said Ariessy. "My purse? What are you talking about, darling?" Marie gazed up and frowned at her in that concerned way she always did when Ariessy lapsed into her daydreams. "Earth-calling Essie, are you reading me?" Eccentric was the word most people used for Marie. Others said she was mad as a box of frogs, but those people didn't really know her. She was an intelligent woman with natural beauty who didn't suffer fools. She tapped the bottom of the butter knife on the wooden countertop. "Essie, are you still with us, darling, or shall I be looking for somewhere to plug you in?" Ariessy broke from her daze and looked up at the clock on the wall. "Oh no, I'm going to be late. I haven't even dried my hair yet." She raked her fingers through her long chestnut strands and squinted. Her hair had a natural curl to it like her mother's. "I knew I should have used more conditioner," she said. Marie set down a plate of hot crumpets in front of her. "It's only 8 o'clock. You've got plenty of time. Finish your breakfast first." "You know I don't have much of an appetite in the mornings." She stretched out her arms. "My body feels stiff as a board." "But you missed dinner last night. You'll waste away if you don't eat properly. I already have your father to worry about. I don't need you giving me grey hairs as well." "I keep telling you not to worry about me." "I came up to your bedroom last night to call you down to eat, and you weren't moving. I had to check you were still breathing. For a terrifying moment, I wondered if you were dead." The stunned, wide-eyed expression Marie gave her made Ariessy laugh. "It's not funny. You scared me half to death. Why are you so tired all the time lately? Are you sick?" Marie pushed her hand against Ariessy's forehead. "No, I'm fine. Stop worrying," she replied. "Are you sure you're not depressed? I know you're worried about your father, darling, but is there anything else you want to tell me?" "I'm not depressed. I'm not sleeping very well, that's all. I'm okay." "You need to take more care of yourself. You're not eating enough. If you're not careful, you'll get too thin and wiry. You don't want to end up looking like a pipe cleaner." Ariessy giggled and shook her head. "Is Nan coming over this morning?" Marie flicked through the rest of the paper. "Yes, she's going to sit with your dad so that I can go out. I need to buy food. We're running low on everything." "I keep saying we should order online." "I like to see what I'm buying, you know that." "I can pick up some groceries on the way home if you like. Just text me a list." "It's all right, love. I need to get out of the house. I get cabin fever when I'm stuck in all day long." "I'm home all weekend. I'll sit with Dad if you want to go out anywhere." "I don't want you to worry. I can manage," said Marie. "Dad has improved today, though, hasn't he?" Marie frowned and avoided Ariessy's gaze. "I thought you said he was feeling better now. You just said he needed more time and he'd be fine." "We must stay positive. We'll give him another healing session tonight." Ariessy couldn't have wished for a better father than Henry. He spent hours with her when she was a child and was always there for her when she needed him. They shared the same sense of humor and a love of birds. Ariessy was a young girl when Henry demonstrated how to use sorcery to heal their injuries. She hadn't developed her own healing abilities at that age, but she spent hours learning all the spells ready for when she could put them into practice. She wasn't a natural healer like her dad. It took determination and a lot of concentration, but with persistence and patience, she was competent, which was good enough for her. Henry was the one person in the world who understood her. Ariessy needed his guidance, and since his health declined, she felt abandoned. Marie was kind and loving, but she was also more composed and reserved in her affections than Henry, and worried about everything, so Ariessy kept her problems to herself because she didn't want to worry her any further. Marie's anxiety was a trait Ariessy hadn't thought she'd inherit until recently, but lately all she thought about was her father's illness and the fear of losing him overwhelmed her. It felt like her guts were being ripped out every time the possibility of losing him entered her mind. She longed to jump in the car and take drives like they did when she was a child, or go for a long walk along the coast, but his muscles were too weak, and he felt permanently exhausted. The scariest part was that sorcery had become less effective in healing him as time went on, and the past few months, he'd been getting worse. Isabel knocked on the door, and Marie let her in. Ariessy had never met either of her biological grandmothers. They both died before she was born. Marie's father, Eric, lived in Canada, and she only met him once when she was a few months old, so she didn't remember him. Isabel had known Henry's mother for many years, so when she died, Isabel became a strong surrogate mother to Henry, and subsequently a nan to Ariessy when she was born. She strode into the kitchen with a tissue pressed against her cheek. Ariessy reached for her hand and frowned. "Nan, what's the matter?" Isabel prided herself on being immaculately dressed. She always wore bright, confident clothes and had perfectly manicured nails. She styled her long white hair the same way every day, tied up in a neat bun with jeweled hair combs pinned on either side. But that morning her hair was sticking out all over the place. She didn't have a stitch of makeup on, and her clothes were creased and mismatched. "What happened?" asked Ariessy. Isabel fought back her tears as she slumped into the chair at the kitchen table. "Haven't you heard the news? Everyone's talking about it," she said. "No, what news?" asked Marie, as she turned the kettle on. "Look what they did to her." Isabel held up the newspaper and pointed it to the headline. It read, "Pensioner's foot found among her ashes." "Oh yes, I saw that this morning," said Marie. "It's awful." The photograph was disturbing. A single foot still wearing a floral pink slipper, resting beneath a wicker chair surrounded by a thick layer of snowy ash. The walls behind were scorched, but the tall lamp in the corner of the room remained untouched. Ariessy's green eyes widened. "Who is it?" She stared at the picture with her hand clasped over her mouth. "It's Gertie," said Isabel. "Gertie Felon? Are you sure?" asked Marie. "How could it be?" Ariessy peered at the picture again. "It's horrible," she said, turning her head away. "I can't believe it. What could Gertie have done to activate our goddess's curse?" Their goddess, Freya, created the Saver and gifted them with sorcery under strict conditions. They must only use their abilities to protect Mother Earth and her non-human inhabitants. They must not, under any circumstances, reveal their sorcery to humankind. If humans knew what Saver were capable of, they would want to use their gifts to gain personal power, wealth, or rulership over others. The humans would probably try to drag the Saver community into political frictions throughout the world, undermining Odin's order that humanity remain free to evolve without any supernatural influence. So the gods made sure it could never happen. If humankind observed Saver sorcery, they were stripped of their memory and left with only a déjà vu of the moments leading up to the event. The Saver, however, didn't escape so easily. Freya punished them by spontaneously combusting them to ash. Some in the Saver community believed the curse to be an old wives' tale told by mothers to make their children behave because it was such a rare occurrence. There had never been a case in Wales, not that Ariessy knew of anyway, until now. Seeing Gertie's foot in the picture made her stomach turn. Isabel's frail hand pointed at the picture. "This wasn't Freya's curse. That much I know." "Then how did it happen?" asked Ariessy. "Are you sure it's Gertie?" said Marie. "Yes. Lucy called me first thing this morning to tell me." Isabel's voice was laden with anger. "She must have had something to do with it." "Oh, Izzy, why would you say something like that?" asked Marie. "What did she say on the phone?" asked Ariessy. "Not much, and she didn't sound upset. She told me point blank her mother was dead, as though she were talking about someone else's mother. Don't you think that's odd?" Ariessy glanced at Marie with a questioning frown. "People grieve in different ways. You mustn't judge her because you didn't think she sounded upset," said Marie. "Well, whatever Lucy thinks happened, it's not true. Gertie would never fall foul of our goddess's curse. It's impossible." "So what do you think happened?" asked Ariessy. "Obviously someone killed her," said Isabel. "What? Why would anyone want to kill Gertie?" "Essie, please don't encourage her," said Marie. "I don't know, but I'm going to find out. Gertie had her faults. I know she wasn't the easiest woman to get along with, but Incompetence was not one of them, said Isabel. Marie folded her arms across her chest. Would you listen to yourself? Are you aware of the accusations you're making? I wanted her to come and live with me. She was lonely in that house all by herself, but Lucy insisted she stay at home. Now we know why, don't we? That girl always works so many hours at the authority. She was never around to help Gertie. She probably felt it was her duty to take care of her mother, said Marie. Isabel spat out her words as though they left a bad taste in her mouth. And look how that turned out. Ariessy placed a china cup on the table in front of Isabel. Here, drink this. It's lemon tea. Isabel stroked the side of her face. You're a good girl, Essie. Do you want some breakfast, Izzy? Asked Marie. No, thank you. I feel too sick to eat. How is Henry this morning? She replied. Not great, said Marie. He's sleeping again. I'm sure it will pass. He's been up and down for a few weeks now. Do you think it will? I'm so worried, said Ariessy. We'll give him some healing when he wakes up, love, said Isabel. Sorcery was a remarkable gift to be given, but using the energies had side effects. Appliances turned themselves on, and alarms could be triggered up to a mile down the road. If too many savers used their energies at the same time, the neighborhood sounded like Alarm City for a few minutes afterwards. Modern technology was putting the saver community at greater risk as time went on, and as a result, they had to be meticulous in their calculations whenever they used their gifts. Isabel clutched a bag in her lap and took out 2 small black and white pictures of 2 young girls with tight cars. She gazed at it with tears trembling on her lower lids. We were like sisters growing up, Gertie and me. I remember this picture being taken like it was yesterday. It was our first devotional to Freya. We were only 5 years old, so we didn't have our gift yet, and were fascinated by the myriad of colors the other saver manifested around us during the ritual. We wore our best dresses that day. You could see how happy we were. I'll never forget. It was September 23rd, 1945. So much happened that year. It was the end of the war. I'll always remember my mother spent hours winding rags in my hair to make those curls. Isabel clutched a pink, heart-shaped pendant around her neck. That's a pretty necklace, said Ariessy. It was a gift from Gertie, she replied. Marie put her arm around Isabel's shoulder. I'm so sorry. I know she meant a lot to you. Isabel's eyes hung on the picture of young Gertie. I'm going to find out who's responsible for this. They won't get away with it. They? Who are they? Asked Marie. Whoever is responsible for killing her, said Isabel. I won't stop until I find out what they're up to. A chill rushed through Ariessy's body. She didn't want to think about anyone being up to anything, especially not murder. Who would want to kill Gertie? She was just an old lady, she thought. Margam wasn't the kind of place you'd expect to hear about the murder of an elderly lady. But it wasn't normal to hear of a saver being ashified by their goddess's curse either. Ariessy didn't want to admit it to herself, but deep down, she knew that something was wrong. Have you spoken to Lucy about your concerns? I'm sure she'd request an investigation if there's any doubt about the cause of her mother's death, said Marie. No, it's too dangerous. Lucy could be involved, said Isabel. Involved in what? Ariessy glared at her. Perhaps Nan had lost her mind. After all, she is in her late 70s, despite looking young for it. Well, usually anyway, when she wasn't so upset. Isabel dropped the photograph back inside her handbag. Essie, you'd better get to work, said Marie. Work? Said Isabel. At Acacia, said Ariessy. We didn't want you to worry, said Marie. It was Bronwyn's suggestion. What are you talking about? Didn't want to worry me about what? Said Isabel. The headmaster expelled me, said Ariessy. Why? What happened? She called Petra a hag in front of the entire class, said Marie. Oh, Essie, really? How many times have I told you? Speak well of your friend. Of your enemy, say nothing, said Isabel. I know, Nan. I was stupid. I just got so angry. Then you must learn to train that anger. I try, but it's hard. Who is Petra, anyway? Asked Isabel. Eminent Aldrich's daughter, said Marie. Oh, well, that explains why they expelled you. You must try to keep yourself out of trouble, said Isabel. She needs to learn not to be so impulsive, said Marie. She can't help it, Marie. She takes after you. Ariessy giggled. Saver usually built or worked for companies that satisfied the purpose of their creation, so they were typically involved in ecology, environmental protection, and animal welfare. In the Saver community, employment was reliant on who you knew rather than just what you learned and how many qualifications you had. If you were keen and willing to work hard, the community were happy to take a chance on you. Bronwyn was Marie's closest friend. She and her husband John bought the Ariessy Academy a few years before, so when Ariessy was forced to leave her academy, Marie decided she'd be happier forgetting about her studies and starting work instead. As Henry was a teacher, Bronwyn suggested she follow in his footsteps and offered her an apprenticeship at Ariessy. Ariessy was more than happy to accept. She taught reading, writing, and Welsh to the younger children at the academy. She didn't teach sorcery yet. Saver children didn't develop their gifts until they were 9 or 10 years old. This protected them from the dangers of revealing themselves to the human world before they were old enough to understand the risks. "Are you enjoying working at the Ariessy, Essie?" asked Isabel. "Yes, I love it. The kids are amazing." Ariessy picked up a bag and slid it over her shoulder. "How long have you been there now?" 4 months. "Oh, you've been there a while then. You should have told me." A momentary smile flashed across Isabel's face, but it was short-lived. Ariessy hugged her. "I'm sorry about Gertie. I wish there was something I could do to help." "Thank you, love," said Isabel. "She needs to learn not to be so impulsive," said Marie. "Oh, Marie, she's not a child anymore," said Isabel. "Stop fussing over her." Marie turned to Ariessy. "And eat properly at lunchtime." "She'll eat when she's hungry," said Isabel. "She missed her dinner last night," said Marie. "Why, are you sick, Essie?" The crease in Isabel's forehead deepened. "No, I was tired. You know Mum worries too much." "She fell asleep at 6 o'clock," said Marie. "Well then, your mother's right," said Isabel. "I'll be all right." She headed to the door. "Text me when Dad wakes up. I need to know he's okay." "I will, darling," said Marie. As Ariessy lifted her coat off the hook, a knot twisted inside her gut. Could Nan be right? Is there a murderer loose in our hometown? Or is she letting her grief get the better of her? She tried to shake the picture of Gertie's foot out of her mind, but it kept creeping back in. Chapter 2. The Ariessy Academy was an impressive building. It had an elegant Edwardian-style exterior and was in good repair considering its age. The grand clock sitting in its central space always kept the correct time, although the clanging of the bell every hour was louder than Ariessy would have liked. In addition to bold private property signs, various security measures kept humans away, mainly a powerful spell surrounding the perimeter. The results were simple but effective. If humans wandered too near, they felt compelled to turn around and go back the way they came, no questions asked. Saver couldn't use mind manipulation to compel humans the way the Virolfar did, and the threat of being ashified, as well as legislation and modern technology, made using sorcery challenging, to say the least. Ariessy sped past the iron gate, slammed on her brakes, and swerved into a parking space. She glanced up at the old clock. Oh heck, I'm late again. She snatched her bag from the passenger seat and, using her coat as an umbrella, raced to the entrance doors. The modern decor inside contrasted its old-world exterior as the building filled with natural light, which beamed in from tall windows and shimmered on the marble effect-tiled floor. In the foyer hung a giant painting of a red dragon with the words, "A nation without language is a nation without heart," curved over the top in Welsh. Ariessy hurried into a classroom and found Steve relaxing in a chair with his feet up on a desk. He eyeballed her with his big brown eyes. He was in his 30s, but had the playful attitude of a much younger man. "Morning, Ariessy," he said in a broad Scottish accent. "Hi," she returned her sweetest grin, hoping he wouldn't mention her timekeeping, or lack of it. "It's 9:26, he said. "Since when did you become the talking clock?" She took off her coat and hung it on a peg beside the door. Steve tutted. "You do realize you're late again?" "I know, I'm sorry." "Anything to get out of early morning meetings, sir. What's your excuse this time?" "I lost track of time." Her phone pinged in a text message. "Who's that?" he asked. "Nosy, it's Bronwyn." What does it say? Are you in trouble? She scanned through the text while chewing on a thumbnail. She wants to see me in her office at lunchtime. That means you're toast. Oh, great. Thanks for the reassurance. Essie, you've been late every day this week, and it's Friday tomorrow. She'll understand, though, won't she? Just remember it's me who's been covering for you. Yes, I know. I owe you one. More than one. But don't worry. You can pay me back in Spoketails next week. Why, what's happening next week? It's Lou Ellen's birthday, as it happens. Not that we need an excuse to celebrate. He grinned. We're meeting at the cavern at 8 o'clock. I want to see you there. No excuses. She took out her phone and opened her calendar. All right. It's in the diary. Right then, I'll leave you to the carpet caterpillars. They're in a delightful mood, as you can see. He glanced around the room and broke into a wide-open smile. She watched the children. The sound of wooden chair legs getting dragged along the floor was uncomfortable for everyone, but with heightened senses for Ariessy, it was harrowing. She forced a smile. They're excitable this morning. Yeah, well, over to you. I've only been there half an hour and I'm exhausted already. He chuckled to himself as he left the room. David and Lewis were drawing large shapes on the whiteboard with bright-coloured pens. Sarah was sitting cross-legged with a pile of books she'd taken from the bookcase in the corner of the room, and Sophie was spinning around in circles with her long curls flying across her face. I'm going to be the most powerful saver in the world, shouted Star from the back of the classroom. She flicked her long black hair behind her and ran up to Ariessy. It's my birthday soon. I know. You're going to be 6, said Ariessy. Yes, and I'm going on holiday to Geese. She wrapped her arms around Ariessy's knees. I'm going to miss you. I'll miss you too, Star, but you still have a few weeks before the school holidays, and it's Greece, darling. Geese are the birds. Most of the other children in the class didn't like Star. Her abrupt and overconfident manner grated on them, but Ariessy sensed it was an act to hide her insecurities. Her family expected her to live up to their infamous qualities, all of whom held high positions of high authority and responsibility within the community. Despite her young age, Star was terrified of not being good enough, so Ariessy did her best to encourage her. David ran up and stood stock still in front of Ariessy with a wide grin. Good morning, Essie, he said in a quiet voice. Ariessy bent down and rested a hand on his shoulder. Good morning, Mr. Harris. What are we going to do today? I don't know. He shuffled from foot to foot. She circled her hand and manifested a giant blue bubble over her desk. Okay, class, let's see if we can all sit down quietly before the bubble bursts. And go! The kids raced to the center of the room, flopped themselves down and gazed up at her with eager faces. Sophie, what should we do for the next hour? She asked. Lewis held his arm up at the elbow and stretched it up as far as he could. Can we play a game? Well, let me see. How about Welsh colours? The children broke into a cacophony of excited squeals. Okay, in case any of you have forgotten the rules, I'm going to give you the name of a colour in Welsh, and you're going to find the matching coloured mat and sit down on it as fast as you can. The last person to sit on the correct mat will have to say the word for me in Welsh first and then in English. Yes, I love this game, shouted Lewis. Ready? Ariessy smiled. The children screamed out excitedly and raised themselves off the floor in readiness. All right. Ready? Oren! Ariessy chuckled as the children raced to the orange mat, scrambling over each other. She had contemplated teaching until Bronwyn suggested it. Her own experiences of being a pupil were a world away. The Gibsons envisioned a more nurturing environment where the kids could flex their creative muscles and share decisions in their learning, which Ariessy embraced wholeheartedly. That was the main reason John and Bronwyn didn't make the kids wear a uniform. They had the school emblem sewn onto T-shirts of every colour, and provided their shoes didn't have heels, they were free to wear whatever they liked. Now, teaching the little ones was a job Ariessy had come to love, as she couldn't imagine doing anything else. Ariessy knocked on the headmistress's door. She didn't realise she was chewing her lower lip until she bit too hard and flinched. Bronwyn opened the door with smiling eyes. Essie, good, you're here. Take a seat. She was a short, well-rounded lady, and a long floral skirt swept behind her as she strode back to her desk. How is your dad, honey? He's up and down, to be honest. And Mum is worried. She's fussing over every little thing as usual. Yet it's a difficult time for you all. How are you managing? You look tired. I'm okay, thank you. You've missed quite a few morning meetings. You must call in and let us know when you're going to arrive late. Yes, I'm sorry. My head's been all over the place lately. I'll do better from now on. Well, if there's anything John or I can do, you only have to say. Thank you. Has anyone told you about the workshops we've organized? No. John hurried into the office behind them. He was tall and thin with a thick, wild beard that reminded her of a mad professor. Hello, Essie, he said with a beaming smile. How are you? What on earth are you wearing, John? You smell like an aftershave advertisement, said Bronwyn. How can I smell like an advert, dear? As far as I'm aware, we still haven't invented smelly vision. Essie stifled a laugh with a wide smile. You know what I meant. I called Essie in to talk about her Wildlife Warrior project. Oh yes, we're excited about it. John didn't look up. He was struggling to open the safe. A warrior what? Asked Ariessy. John clasped a hand over his lower back. Oh, bloody hell. Who lowered the safe while I wasn't looking? His humor and animated expression made Ariessy laugh. She loved his optimistic nature. He had a heart of gold and always seemed happy to offer a helping hand. He reminded her of her dad in that way. Bronwyn turned to help him. What are you trying to stuff in there? She asked. Paperwork, love. There's so much of it. Leave it a moment and tell Essie about the workshops. Oh, yes, well, we've set up what we're calling Wildlife Warrior Workshops. They're classes for human kids on the weekends and perhaps after school if it becomes popular. Ariessy's jaw dropped. Did you say humans? Yes, aged between 9 and 13. We've already recruited a few local schools, and they're thrilled with the idea. Aren't they, Bronwyn? I don't understand, said Ariessy. Why human kids? What are you going to teach them? Environmental studies, how to take care of our wildlife, and of course, the importance of sustainability, he said. We need to bring the message of environmental protection straight to them, said Bronwyn. We've organized visits to Merlin Court, Abudulis, and Plantasia to interest them in local wildlife and teach them more about the ecological problems we face globally. The hope is that they begin to understand how much of a difference each of them can make in their daily lives, said John. Oh, right, said Ariessy. So, what do you think? Asked John. It's a brilliant idea, but do you think the Vald will allow it? They've tied me in knots with paperwork, but eventually they'll approve it, I'm sure. No need to worry. I've everything in hand. Ariessy wasn't so sure. The Vald were the law enforcers of a race called Vir-Ulfar. Odin created them in honor to his son Thor and gifted them with great physical strength, the ability to heal themselves and to shapeshift into wolves. Their purpose was to protect humanity from other supernatural races, like the Saver. Their responsibilities had evolved to include the creation of laws and enforcement of restrictions following a war between the Saver and the Vir-Ulfar back in 1666. The Vir-Ulfar came from a planet called Nir-Darvalir, but over the past few hundred years, they built bases on Earth where the Vald lived, concealed among the human population worldwide. John continued in a cheerful tone. Once we've satisfied all their requirements, I'm sure they'll give us the go-ahead. They're much more accommodating than I expected, to be honest with you, he said. We'd like you to help John teach the workshops, said Bronwyn. What do you think? Me? A shadow of alarm showed on Ariessy's face. Yes, John gave her a bright smile. But surely, I don't have enough teaching experience. I've only been working for a few months. I've heard nothing but excellent reports from the rest of the staff about how well you're doing, and the kids love you, said John. Thank you, but I'm working with Saver children. I don't think I'm qualified to teach human kids. Why not? Asked Bronwyn. I don't think I have the right skills, she replied. Nonsense. You have all the skills you need. It would help you if you had more confidence in yourself, said Bronwyn. Out of all our teachers, you, my dear, are the one who is most suitable for the task. You engage remarkably well with the younger children, and because you're still young yourself, the older kids won't feel threatened by you. We think you're a perfect fit, said John. We understand that timing isn't good, with Henry taking a turn recently, and if you don't want to teach all the workshops, you don't have to, said Bronwyn. So, what do you say? Asked John. His eager expression crushed her. John and Bronwyn had been exceptionally kind to her, and the last thing she wanted to do was disappoint them. But she knew spending a lot of time around humans was a risk she couldn't afford to take. What if they discovered her secret? John lowered his head and he gazed up at her. We can't do it without you. I'd love to help, but I can't. I'm sorry, she said. Why not, Essie? Asked Bronwyn. She couldn't tell them the real reason, but that didn't matter, because she had a reason which was just as valid. I need to be at home as much as possible. Dad is getting sicker. I need to be there to help Mum. I was worried about that too, so I spoke to Marie this morning. She thinks it will do you good to get out of the house more, said Bronwyn. Did she say that? Yes. Does she know I'll be spending time with human kids? Yes. She seemed to think it was a great idea. She did? It's settled then. The Wald are visiting us this afternoon, so if you want to ask a few questions, be polite. It shouldn't take too long, said John. Ariessy's fatigue disappeared in an instant. The Wald are coming here, to the academy, today. Don't look so worried. They want to put names to faces, that's all, said Bronwyn. It's nothing you need to be nervous about. John ruffled the top of Ariessy's head. You worry too much. Ariessy frowned. Isabel had drummed it into her since she was a little girl that she must never speak to the Wald, not under any circumstances, but she was too startled by the revelation to offer any resistance. Our first trip is planned for noon on Saturday. We're going to Merlin Court Falls. The coach will arrive 10 minutes before, so be at Margam Community Centre by 1:45, if you can, said John. This Saturday? Asked Ariessy. I'm sure you'll enjoy it. We just want you to encourage the kids to have fun and answer their questions, that's all, said Bronwyn. Okay, she returned an unconvinced smile. What am I getting myself into? She thought. I do have one more favour to ask before you go, said John. I'm going to be a lot busier with all this going on, so I need you to take over a few manifestation classes for me. Ariessy tried not to show her reluctance. I mean, if there's no one else, I could maybe manage a few lessons, she said. Bronwyn sat back in her chair and moved a pile of paperwork around her desk. Here it is, the curriculum for this term. Ariessy sat down in silence and read down the list. The concealing spell, healing spell, covering tracks, self-protection. And finally, the projection of thought spell, which was just a polite way to describe compulsion. A stronger saver could compel others to do their bidding by projecting their thoughts onto them. However, the ability didn't work on humans, or Virolfa for that matter. It was impossible to hide from the Wald because sorcery didn't affect their race directly. Saver couldn't compel them, and to top it off, they looked human, which meant savers couldn't tell the Wald and humans apart. Unfortunately, Saver had a golden aura surrounding their bodies which, although invisible to humans, meant the Virolfa could identify them from a good distance, even in a crowd at night. As Ariessy grew up, Isabel made it clear that she mustn't draw attention to herself among humans for fear of attracting the attention of the Virolfa. She never explained why, though, and Ariessy was afraid to ask. Essie, are you all right? Asked John. Yes, sorry. So, what do you think? You shouldn't have any trouble teaching those spells. Ariessy tried to hide her growing concern. The projection of thought spell is a bit advanced for this age group, isn't it? She said. There are some talented saver among them who need challenges, if we're to identify their potential, said John. What if it gets out of hand and they try to control each other? It's important we find out who has the ability so we can guide them in the right direction. Don't you agree? Said Bronwyn. I suppose so. Ariessy wasn't convinced, but didn't want to challenge the headmistress and appear disrespectful. Oh, and one last thing before you go. We've arranged a charity dinner on Saturday the 18th to raise funds for our Wildlife Warrior project. John invited some parents to come along. It would be great if you would join us. Bronwyn handed her an invitation. I'm sure they'd love to meet our volunteers. I know it's late notice. I had intended to give you this during our morning meeting on Monday, but you've been absent all week. I haven't had the chance. You'll come, won't you? Ariessy stared at the invitation. Ariessy? Said John. Yes. She got up from her seat. She needed some fresh air fast. Her mind was swarming with concerns. We're all praying for your dad, love, said Bronwyn. Thank you. I'll tell him. As soon as she left the room, she raised her eyes to the ceiling and whispered, Freya, please help me. That afternoon, Nathan Jackson and Rick Kramer marched through the main gates to Acacia Academy. They didn't look approachable. Both were unshaven and wore black combat trousers and boots. Jackson stood a little shorter than Kramer, who had a scowl on his face. John greeted them with a nervous smile. I'm John Gibson. We spoke on the phone. He held out his hand. Jackson shook it. Vaughn Jackson, he said. This is Kramer. Kramer gave John a nod and looked around. It's nice to meet you. Please, come this way. John led the two men through the entrance hall and into a wide corridor leading to the offices and staff rooms. Jackson took an interest in the artwork posted on the walls and stopped to take a closer look. Are these drawings of Ingjar? He asked. John's tone was apologetic. Yes, I'm sure you know. The sisters are a significant part of our history. Born in the Middle Ages, sisters Ingjar and Say were nomadic tribeswomen from Svealand in Sweden who had been orphaned as children. The girls were inseparable until Say came of age and caught the eye of the king. As she was beguiling and intelligent, the king asked her to work in the palace. Say begged Ingjar to go with her, but Ingjar refused to live with the human king, explaining it was too dangerous for sorcerers and humans to live together. After a lengthy discussion, Ingjar finally accepted Say's decision to go alone, but made a promise she would never use sorcery within the royal grounds. Say agreed, and after a sorrowful goodbye, left Ingjar to settle into a nearby wood, alone, and moved into the palace. During her time with the king, Say repeatedly acted against Ingjar's wishes and used her sorcery within the palace walls. One day, a servant woman witnessed Say manifesting healing light over an injured piglet, and Say's body erupted into flames. Terrified, the servant woman ran to tell the king's men what happened, but when she arrived, she couldn't recall why she was so scared and was left confused. It was some time before the king's men found the remains of Say's body, and a part of her arm was left untouched by the flames. Horrified and scared, the king's men feared Say's death was the work of Surta, the fire giant. Looking for someone to blame, they turned to Say's hermit sister, Ingjar. Taken by surprise and without a tribe to protect her, Ingjar couldn't defend herself from the king's army. They dragged her to the palace to answer for her crimes, and when she failed to satisfy their accusations, they sentenced her to the same fate as her sister. To this day, Ingjar is believed to be the first and only saver to have been burned at the stake. The community have long since debated why she didn't use sorcery to take control of her death. Being ashified by Freya's curse is quick and painless, which is undoubtedly preferable to being burned alive. The children had drawn colourful illustrations of the sisters' life stories. One of the drawings was a wooden stake outside the palace with a woman tied to it, wide-eyed, as orange flames snaked up her body. Ingjar is worshipped by the Mutaka. Do you teach the children about them too? Kramer's tone brimmed with disapproval. I believe this lesson was for younger children to understand the importance of using sorcery with caution, said John. If you're going to use Ingjar to make a point to the kids, then educate them while they're young to ensure they understand the danger of organizations like the Mutaka, said Kramer. The Mutaka are hell-bent on culling humanity, and their sacrifices to Ingjar played a pivotal role in that, said Jackson.